Hi, I'm Nargis Anzali. I'm the student representative for the ACSD School Board, and today I'm here with Ron Makleff, who's running for our school board. So, hi, Ron.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. So firstly, why are you running, and what in your professional or personal background do you think best equips you for serving on the school board?
Thanks for asking. I am running because primarily I have a 3-year-old son. He turned 3 on Friday, and I want to make sure that he enters a school district that is accountable to its residents, where equality is at the center of the things we do, and where excellence is not coming at the expense of other students. I'm a lifelong educator. I've been a product of public schools my whole life. Just recently taught my first January term class at Middlebury College, which was my first time being associated with a private institution of higher learning. In other words, public education is one of my core values, and I want to make sure that this institution of the school board is not serving as a rubber stamp for the administration. I think the entire point of having oversight is to make sure that there is respectful and critical dialogue between the representatives of the residents of the towns and the people who are running the schools that they care so much about.
Wonderful. And so with your son being 3, so he's going to be entering into elementary schools in a couple of years, so that kind of leads us nicely to the next question of are you satisfied with the decision to make the closure of an elementary school contingent on a supermajority of the board and a majority of district voters?
I think that towns should have the right to decide whether their schools stay open or not. We are a district, but at the same time, schools are at the center of the communities that they serve, and those communities, those towns in specific, should be able to decide whether those stay open. Under the circumstances, and in light of the pretty heated discussion that I saw at the board meeting last Monday, and that has been going on in this wider community for some time now, I think that the compromise that was reached is reasonable, and I hope that it can be amended to make sure that towns have some kind of, not necessarily veto power, but some kind of extra voice in the fate of their own elementary schools.
All right. And so I know that there's a lot going on with kind of the way that we frame education in our district. We've made the transition to International Baccalaureate. And I'm just wondering if we could get your opinion on that, whether you believe that that system is necessarily working for us. I know that you mentioned wanting to make sure that education doesn't come at the expense of others, and whether you see an intersection with that in our current system.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm still listening to students especially, and to teachers especially, and I also want to know what the rest of the community thinks. But from what I can tell, I'm not sure that the International Baccalaureate system is serving the purpose it was intended to serve, and I'm furthermore not certain that I think there may be better alternatives that would cost the district less, and create less of a scarcity of resources. For example, I went to a high school with advanced placement courses, which are college-level courses for juniors and seniors in high school. I felt like those were amazing. The teachers, as far as I understand from the teachers that I've spoken to here in the district, had that system before, and they preferred it. That being said, I know it was very difficult to transition into IB, and so it might be a mistake to back out at this very moment. What I would suggest at this point is that we set some kind of benchmark that we want to reach, not just for IB students, but for all the students in the district in terms of test scores. And if we're not meeting those benchmarks in a couple of years, then I think it would be time to find another option. Because I don't think that kind of wavering from one extreme to the next is necessarily the best move, but I think that we need to have our fingers on the pulse.
Yeah, and in terms of, as we mentioned, this kind of district spending is a conversation that's been coming up a lot. And so a recent study has suggested that it will take at least $100 million to bring all of ACSD's school buildings up to code. How do you think the district should approach the school repair plan?
Yeah. Well, I think we should start by prioritization, and I think oftentimes this discussion is framed in terms of these small rural schools which would cost a lot of money to maintain, and that just doesn't, that's not reflected in the numbers. The really urgent repairs to bring the buildings up to code across the district would be more like $10 million as opposed to 100. And for that, I would support a bond being raised within the district. But I also don't think that the lack of maintenance of these schools over the years should ever be used as an excuse to try to close any of them.
Right. And recently there have been changes in special education mandated by Act 173 and the demand for special education services. How do you think you can help balance special education needs with all the other demands that we have in the district?
Yeah, it's a tough question, and I actually don't really love the way it's framed, because I don't think that education is the kind of thing where we can kind of weigh some children's needs against others. I think we need to find a way to make the pot, or the pie, I guess is the phrase, bigger, and make sure that we have enough resources for all of our students. And kids with special needs, it's not just kind of something we can afford. It's not something we can fund only if we can afford to. It's something that is an absolute necessity. The two main things that we need to do with that are to make sure that we are, with this new funding system through Act 173, not under-evaluating, and make sure that we're identifying all the cases of special needs students that we need to. And secondly, we need to hire more people to do these jobs. And I know that there are other districts, neighboring districts, which have had no trouble hiring, especially the specialists and the paraprofessionals that need to be in the classroom one-on-one with students. I think that there are a lot of resources being put into administration and planning, and not enough put into getting people into the classroom to work with students. So I think our priority has to be, for example, to collaborate with local colleges and universities to make sure that people who have the proper training are encouraged, are given incentives to come work in our schools. Because I know that there's a lot of demand for people in classrooms, and I don't think there's anything uniquely rural or undesirable about working in Addison County. I think that the administration's not doing everything they can to think creatively about how to encourage young professionals to come into the district and work with our students.
Thank you. And anything else you'd like to say in closing?
I'm a child of immigrants to this country, and a recent immigrant to Addison County, and I think it's important that we do everything we can to make as many different types of people as we have in this district feel welcome, and the main place where that happens has to be our schools.
That's a wonderful sentiment. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And this is just a reminder to get out there and vote on town meeting day.